Sabrina 70s comic, issue 36. Sabrina asks what's wrong with Harvey, and he says that he's nervous every time he goes to the beach with her. Well, why wouldn't he be? Every single time that happens, something magical happens, or a tough guy goes to bother him. Usually it's both. Why do they still bother him? I guess he's finally learned his lesson. Why is Sabrina asking him why? Harvey says that someone always tries to take him out. And somehow she interprets that to mean a woman asking him for a date and jealously asks who is this woman he's expecting. Well, he is willing to cheat on her. This misunderstanding could have easily not happened. But to be fair, there has been a story where a whole bunch of women tried to flirt with him at the beach. I guess he only came to the beach to humor Sabrina. A tough guy flirts with Sabrina and then picks up Harvey. And he says she's injurious to his health. So after the tough guy threatens to throw him into the ocean, as I wonder if this would ever actually happen, Sabrina uses magic to hurt his arm. Somehow he says the hands of Harvey are deadly weapons, when I thought he would assume his arm was hurt because he was carrying someone heavy over his head. That was the most subtle spell yet. Then somehow another tough guy tries to talk to Sabrina and threaten Harvey. Thanks to Sabrina, his arm hurts too, as Harvey has his hand on it, and this intimidates the men in the beach. That would be great, except all the women are impressed too. After Sabrina smartly tells Harvey not to push it when he says a badass line, "And any of the rest of you clowns want trouble, just step up." Harvey tells Sabrina that they must learn to share and lets the woman feel his muscle. So Sabrina uses magic to put him in pain too, so all of the tough guys beat him up. And surprisingly, we cut to him in the hospital because Sabrina didn't protect him that time. And yet she still felt bad enough for him to visit him. In the next story, Sabrina is standing outside annoyed with Hilda, and it takes a bit too long for her to explain that she's mad because she couldn't watch her favorite soap opera because Hilda's talking to her plants again. The story's too slow-paced. Sabrina could have explained all of this to Harvey in just a few panels, not multiple pages. Sabrina wishes Hilda didn't talk so much to them. I guess she's lonely. Harvey decides to try to make her stop by pretending he's the plant talking back to her. Somehow, this plant doesn't immediately fall apart. To be fair, maybe Harvey's putting on a funny voice, so Hilda doesn't know it's him. And she's so used to supernatural stuff, maybe she instinctively thought it was a magical plant and forgot where she got the plant from. She wants to tell Sabrina, but rushes outside and sees Harvey, and the story ends with Hilda deciding to read her flower a whole book, while it's growing wonderfully, implying that at least the plants are entertained by her. Maybe they're just as lonely as her. In the next story, Sabrina wonders what the thumping and scraping noise coming from the back door is, and she thinks there's nobody out here. Out of nowhere, instead of it being Salem, it's a talking gorilla of all things that startles her. No, actually it's Harvey dressed up. That explains why he talked without moving his mouth. Harvey just felt like pranking her, apparently. He wanted to show her the costume he's gonna wear, because they're invited to a costume party. He somehow thinks Sabrina will love her costume, when it requires her to wear a mustache. Good thing it's been established that Sabrina has a hard time saying no. Harvey puts on his costume to go scare Hilda as well. Is she gonna use magic? Oh, thankfully for him, he takes off the costume before she could use magic against him. He pushes his luck by laughing at her for being scared, and the story ends with Hilda using magic so that he gets chased by a Frankenstein monster outside. And he's hoping that it's just Sabrina playing a joke on him. In the next story, Hilda's mad at Sabrina wanting to wear his smallest bikini yet to the beach, and Ambrose sides with Sabrina despite being a centuries-old witch himself. He'll really side with her on anything. He could have been written as her father and you'd never know the difference. He's only a cousin to be more interesting. Ambrose insists on them going to the beach, and Hilda uses magic to give Sabrina an awful new outfit, so Ambrose returns her old look with his own magic. And for once, Sabrina has a moment of wondering if she just imagined it. She realizes Hilda is sapping her, and decides to give up, so she guilts her by saying that she'll be at the snack bar getting fat. Since Sabrina didn't lock her cabana, Hilda decides to get rid of the bikini for her own good. Since Hilda's not around, Ambrose decides to reverse the spell she put on the cabana, so everyone screams at seeing Hilda in that bikini, and surprisingly, Della herself tells her she's the laughingstock of the witches' coven. At least Coven takes advantage of it being about witches, but at least the word council tells me what it actually is. And it's revealed that Hilda is 700 years old. I remember that in the witches' tribunal story, Hilda was intimidated at witches that were 600 years old in the jury. And they looked older than Hilda because they had white hair. I guess Hilda dyes her hair. But you'd think if Della knew that this happened to Hilda, she'd also know the context behind it. She would have needed spy cameras to know about it. I guess she doesn't care and just got mad that she was embarrassed. I hope the reason she was put in a whole bunch of different stories that embarrassed or hurt her was as a punishment for being especially awful recently. Sending Sabrina to a witch's school she didn't want to go to. Zapping away Harvey's ice cream vendor money. The first story is about, after some brief lampshading that this happens way too often, some tough guys threaten Harvey over Sabrina, so she has to use magic to protect them. And then, predictably, he ends up getting hurt anyways. And it's because this time, a bunch of women are impressed with him and he lets himself enjoy it in front of Sabrina. In the second story, which is too slow-paced and boring at first, Hilda's talking to plants again, so Sabrina can't watch TV. And she won't just use magic so that she can watch TV somewhere else for some reason. So Harvey pretends the plants are talking back to Hilda, which caused her to catch him because he didn't run and hide after she took off. So the plan backfires and she starts reading entire books to the plants. Want to be smart of Sabrina to... Well, one can use magic to prevent Hilda from doing that. But I guess she's opposed to that. So too, shouldn't she have just used magic so that she could watch her soap opera in the neighbor's house? In the third story, Harvey scares Sabrina and Hilda with a costume he was going to wear to the costume party, so Hilda gets back at him. And in the fourth story, Hilda refuses to let Sabrina wear a tiny bikini, and thanks to the unusually lenient Ambrose, Hilda ends up being made to wear the bikini instead, even though he wasn't imagining Hilda wearing it. So how did that happen?